like your family did when your mother was diagnosed. They surrounded me with love and support. They let me be tough enough and stubborn enough to fight my own battle, including allowing me to drive to my own treatments. I was 25 at the time, and my daughter was 3 weeks old. I was diagnosed in the hospital on the maternity ward. We thought it was a labor and delivery-related illness. It turned out to be cancer. And 22 years later, I can't imagine how my mother coped with that. But when I told her I was going to drive myself to my treatments myself, she allowed it. That's what I call good parenting. Despite the fact that several times on the way home, I vomited all over the inside of my windshield and my dashboard, rolled myself into her driveway, laid on the lawn, and watched her clean it up. I don't think I can thank you enough for that, Mom. I'm here with my family tonight, my father, who is a prostate cancer patient and uses his services at the Dempsey Center, and has dealt with prostate cancer 5 times and is a really tough survivor and probably taught me everything I need to know about being tough. We're missing my daughter Sarah tonight, who was just 3 weeks old when I was diagnosed. She graduated from college in May, and she's working in D.C. at the American Institute of Cancer Research. She's in Chicago at the Chicago Marathon this weekend, and she is representing her company, and she's talking about prevention. And she texted me today and said, "Hey, Mom, I just met a man whose entire family died of Hodgkin's disease, 4 people, and you never told me this was genetic." I said, "We'll talk about it. It's okay. Breathe." But I'm very proud of her. It's amazing to me. I also want to thank my staff. 10 years ago, my husband, Peter, and I opened our company here in Auburn, Maine, and cancer was our cause. And bear with me. We have an incredible staff who gives back tirelessly and who has done this Dempsey Challenge and all the marketing and communications for 2 years. And if you could have seen them all week, working endless hours. They're here tonight in the back. I'm looking at Kristen. It's really gratifying to be surrounded by people who care about this cause and just give of themselves and give and give and give. So thank you to everyone who works at Rink with me. You're a family too. I want to just talk about survivorship because I've been doing it a really long time, 22 years. I'm like the Susan Lucci of cancer survivorship. I was thinking about how do you do that for 22 years? Well, you do it day by day. That's how you do it. But I remembered that when I finally stopped my treatments, and by the way, I've seen 2 oncologists retire in 22. That's pretty good, right? But when I ended my treatment, I decided to celebrate and take myself on a trip. And I went to Aruba, and I sent a postcard to my oncologist, and it said, "Dear Dr. Thompson, the definition of optimism is when a cancer survivor buys a timeshare." And I know you'll help me get my money's worth. Today in my survivorship, I have a new oncologist, and she is Nikki Erickson. And I love Nikki. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of years ago when I started seeing you, the first time I walked in, I'm like, oh my God, she's so cool, number one. And also, we're about the same age, and our daughters are the same age, so every year when I go to see her, we talk about our daughters, and sort of their college experience and their graduating experience. And what you said earlier tonight really resonated with me because you told me that the first time I ever met you, which is being a long-term survivor is a blessing and a challenge. And you just have to live it every day, and we'll get through it together, and we'll read all the research, and we'll stay on top of it. And she has, and thank you, Nikki. Someday I plan to send you a postcard too. And it's going to say, "Happy 90th birthday, Nikki." I'm on the Survivor Integration Committee for the Dempsey Challenge, so we as a group came up with the bright idea of having the award winners speak tonight. Kicking myself a little bit for that, but it's great to be up here. But the pressure was, for me all week, I had to think of something really profound to say to you about survivorship. So I looked at the great, books of philosophy and literature and religion to find the perfect quote. And I found it, finally, on Facebook. The wall of my neighbor, who's 16 years old and is very wise beyond her years, I have to say. She said, "The darker the sky, the brighter the stars." And I thought, you know what, that's it. Thank you, Brittany. Finally, I found the quote. And it's so true. From whatever perspective you want to think about cancer, the darker the sky, the brighter the stars. And I think about the work of Amgen, and it gives me such hope. The field of biotechnology and medicine, and the fact that cancer really is a final frontier, and that, I read the research and I hear the news, and I look for the bright stars and the breakthroughs, and I also know that for every breakthrough you find, you're discovering a whole new galaxy. Cancer isn't one disease, it's thousands of diseases. Just stay one step ahead of me. As a survivor, we often talk about cancer as a gift. And it is. It's a new perspective. It's a reminder to always look up and find your North Star. And it's the ability to appreciate the small things in life. That's a gift of cancer. That's a gift of 22 years of surviving. But for the newly diagnosed, the people that you heard tonight, the people who are months out or a year out, a cancer diagnosis can feel like complete darkness. It's kind of like getting airlifted out of your life and dropped in a really dark place. And in that darkest hour of that darkest night, in that darkest land, someone from the Dempsey Center steps forward and they hand you a flashlight. Your flashlight. Flashlights are the perfect thing. You need them in natural disasters and you need them in personal disasters. You need them to light the way. And that's what you do. And you hug, which is really nice, Mary. But you hand us a flashlight and you say, "It's going to be okay." And you hold her hand and you light the way. And it's still really dark. And it's still really scary. And it's still really unknowable. But at least you're there. And so I'll end this by saying, I have a flashlight for all 13 of you and for you, Patrick. And on it, it says this. Another quote I found by the always fabulous Dumbledore. And this is important about survivorship, and this is what Nikki said about living your life with cancer. You can still find happiness. You can still live your life. It's okay. You can live with cancer. Dumbledore said, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light." Thank you so much for this honor.